Welcome. Today the topic will be prayer. And like by a mysterious arrangement, Maharaj spoke yesterday how deity worship, if one is going deeper, it is actually going outside the original archana, the mudras, and it goes outside the temple, and it's every action I'm doing is part of deity worship. Every interaction I'm having in this world is part of the deity worship. So the temple is like expanding to the universe. And prayer also. There has not been a millisecond in our whole life that we were not praying. This means sending signals to Radha and Krishna and Paramatma in the heart, who hears everything. The problem is, most of the signals we sent were prayers, please, I want to forget you, and I will make every endeavor for that. So this is, and with a heavy heart, he gave us material existence. This means the illusion of the absence of Radha and Krishna in our life. So with a heavy heart, he had to give that. So there was not a second that we were not praying. So, but in the deeper context, we speak of prayer as a little awakening of the heart. Just look. Now I'm begging you, give me possibilities to remember you and give me circumstances to remember you. And even then, it's a challenging thing. We may chant, because chanting means a purest form of prayer. And we may have some beautiful words on the lips, but then still one has to analyze his life. If I'm chanting 3 or 4 hours, what am I praying the other 24 hours? Krishna must be a little, it's like a multiple personality. He prays some words, but he acts differently also. So Krishna is waiting till something becomes mature. And in Prabodhananda Saraswati, in Vrindavan Mahimamrita, he's writing, "Oh Vrindavana Taivaivasmi, oh Vrindavan, I'm solely yours, only yours." And then he's waiting, and then he's saying, "I boldly lie when I say such things, because I don't mean it, and meaning means my life is not an expression of that." And then he waits, makes another pause, and he says, "But still accept it, please, because under the layer of resistance, of not wanting devotion, still there is an Atma who is crying for that." So it's an interesting thing. He has a a word, a lip prayer, and then he looks at the psychic body that is not always in tune with the realm of prayer. But then he turns one level deeper of an Atma who has never ever wanted anything else than that. So a life of prayer means also an explosion. Like Maharaj said yesterday, the temple is expanded to the whole universe. So also prayer, expressing a heart's attitude to Radha and Krishna is also expanded even outside the times of prayer. So, but we are thankful, Maharaj, that we have some hear you speak about that. Thank you. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namasheshtam Manamapi Satchiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajamuru Purim Matarim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhikamadhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratitha Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natasmi Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nikila Shruti Mole Ratnamala Nirajita Padapankajanta Haji Mukta Kulair Pasyamanam Paritashtam Harinam Samshrayami Anarpitacharim Chirat Karunaya Vatirana Kalo Samarpaitam Unnatajvalarasam Svabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sadha Hridaye Khandare Spurato Vasachinandana Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanaka Vadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksham Vishwambharo Dwijavaro Jugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Ladini Shakti Swarupaya Gauranga Suridaya Cha Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namostute He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Radhe Vrindavanadeshe Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyanmayam Pradiyatam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadhalakshay Kshiptascha Kamaditarangamadhye Kripa Mayitam Sharanam Prapanam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam. Sri Satchinandana Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Sri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai, Sri Sri Gaur Gadadhar Ji Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Govind Ji Ki Jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bol.
So good morning again, pranam to all of you. And thank you, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, for your introduction. It was very, very inspiring, very accurate. I really liked the point you made regarding how when we start to correctly practice every anga of bhakti, we start to realize that the anga is not limited to the practice, but is universalized. No? So archana is not only the altar, but the altar is everywhere. Chanting is not only the chanting, but it's how you conduct yourself throughout the whole day. And the same way, every one of the practices, if you properly understand them, they are not just practices, but they are a lifestyle, ongoing lifestyle. That's challenging again, but that's bhakti. And bhakti is not so much to do things, certain things, but how we live our lives while doing anything and everything. Although it may sound strange, but you will show the quality of your archana in the form how you treat your neighbor, so to say. You will show the quality of your chanting in the form of how you deal with the most ordinary situations of your daily life, when you are not with your hand in the japamala. So that's the depth and the breadth of each aspect of bhakti. So we integrate, and we understand our spiritual project is 24 hours a day. It's not just, okay, I have my spiritual life here while I chanting, when I enter the altar, when I give in the harikata, and then I have my other, 17 hours per day of my other life, like bipolar or something. I have two identities. In the beginning, we may begin as such, creating this dichotomy. It's our own creation. Many times I hear this question, Maharaj, how to harmonize my spiritual life with my material life? So in itself, the question has a problem. Before answering the question, I have to correct the question. And by correcting the question, I am answering the question. Because if you choose to still think in terms of my spiritual life, my material life, okay, that's your choice, and that's your problem. Because at least in bhakti, the idea is that we are invited to make everything one single thing. Everything can be part of bhakti. My job, my family, my life, my prayer, my chant, all should be reflecting one another, as we were saying. How I relate to God, as I replied yesterday to Roberto, will be reflected how I relate to everything else. And how I relate to everything else will speak about my connection with the divine. So there's no escape, fortunately. If we are sincere, we'll feel blessed. Okay, there's no escape. I cannot really cheat myself, be evasive. It's so perfectly presented that I cannot just love Krishna on this side and be dysfunctional to everyone else on this side. I cannot do my archana nicely here and then mistreat everyone else. I cannot chant my kirtan in this way or my japa and then contradict my self-discrepancy, as we talked yesterday. So, at least in theory, we know it should be like that. In practice, still, as we say yesterday, there may be some pain and some acknowledgement and some healthy repentance, but that's also glorious. That's part of the sadhaka's journey. As one friend of mine will say, the beauty and the messiness of the sadhaka's journey. It's messy, but it's beautiful because that messiness is happening in the context of bhakti. No? It's a beautiful messiness. So in that connection, we will talk about prayer today, the sacred realm of prayer. And I chose that title because prayer is more, again, it's a realm, a dimension that we can inhabit more than a thing we do a few hours a day, as Christian Chanda was mentioning. So yeah, today's officially our last meeting on Harikatha. And I'm not a farewell person because I don't believe in farewells, because there is a constant ongoing meeting, whether in union or in separation. But to conclude our series of meetings these days, I thought, well, it may be nice to touch upon a topic that I know it's very important here at Ananda Dham, and hopefully not only here at Ananda Dham, but hopefully important to our whole tradition and to our whole heart, which is, again, prayer. So for me, it's very important. In my last book, I dedicated a whole chapter to prayer because I felt I have to do justice to this. I mean, it deserves unlimited books and volumes and eternity of praise to that. But at least let's begin with one chapter. So, yeah, chapter 13 of my book I call The Realm of Contemplative Prayer. So here we are talking about something similar, the sacred realm of prayer as a realm, as an abode, as a dimension, as a place from which to live our lives. It may begin, as we will see, as a practice. Okay, I do this some hours a day, but eventually, as we said, if we do prayer properly, the experience of prayer will extend beyond the official daily hours till it becomes, my life. My spiritual life becomes my life. Again, at the beginning, it may be my life and my spiritual practice. Eventually, the two of them have to fully align together. My life, my spiritual practice. I don't see difference between the two now. That's the idea. Gradually reaching that sayuja. That's the fusion the merging we accept. And also, the idea came to talk about prayer since somehow we have been talking about prayer all these days, although we have not officially named in any lecture prayer, but so many of the things we have shared are so integral, essential to prayer. I don't know, we began talking, if I'm not mistaken, one of the first lectures we talked on vulnerability a little bit. So that has a lot to do with prayer, how we show up for prayer, no? In a situation that we are not showing up for praying to control the outcome, but to show up as honestly as we can. That's very vulnerable. I remember one definition that Brené Brown, she's an expert on this area of vulnerability, and she said, vulnerability means to have the courage to show up when we don't have a control over the outcome. So for me, that's the definition of prayer. To have the courage to show up, to appear, when you don't have a control over what will happen, but to appear nonetheless. So that's prayer. Prayer, you don't know what will happen. You're just showing yourself, appearing in front of the divine as honestly as you can. So vulnerability. And of course, part of vulnerability is what we talked yesterday a little bit, and these days on powerlessness, rule 1 of the 12 rules, 12 steps. To have that courage to acknowledge when something is beyond our control again, to let go, to give up, and to acknowledge someone else is in control. Also, we talk these days about individuation, trying to do something with our individuality, trying to develop our presentation of our uniqueness as souls for the pleasure of Krishna. So prayer has a lot to do with that also. Prayer has to do with being myself, so to say, not escaping from who I am, but actually, on the contrary, taking full responsibility for who I am and for all that I can be. Again, my potential, who I am, all that I can be. Also, these days we talked about Sambandha and the interrelatedness of everything, and how we are connected with God, God is connected with everything, and therefore we are connected with everything and everyone. So prayer has a lot to do with that as well. Developing our relationship with the center, and therefore with everything else. It's an ongoing development of a relationship, which is eternal. Therefore, it can always be more developed. It's never replaced. I already developed my relationship with Krishna. It's fully developed now. That's not Krishna. And that's not you. Because you have potential for unlimited development of relationship with everything, not only with Krishna. So we talked about that, to enter that space where everything is in an ongoing development, eternal unfolding and evolution. That's how real relationships should work. It's not that we reach a point, okay, there's nothing else to develop, to discover, to learn, to love. That would be so frustrating. Also, we talked a little bit these days about the importance to coexist with uncertainty, with mystery, with what we don't know. Prayer has a lot to do with that also, like voluntarily entering that space. Again, when I'm facing the ultimate mystery in one sense. In one sense, we know so much about Krishna, but in many other ways, we don't know so many things about Krishna. He always remains a mystery on some level. And it's not a problem. We have to, again, to love the mystery, to love the mysterious side of Krishna also. Now we also talk these days about prayer. We mentioned that prayer as a training in dying, which is an interesting definition. On a daily basis, letting go, giving up our body in the sense of giving up our subtle body, our subtle ideas and conceptions that are limiting who I think I am, who I think God is, and therefore who I think my relationship with Him is. Because if I have a limiting idea about me and a limiting idea about Krishna, I have a limiting idea about the relationship between those two as well. So prayer has to do with remaining open to acknowledge that, to change, to transform, to move forward forever. It's not that I will reach some point that I won't need anymore to adjust and transform. No, the transformation is ongoing. So that said, I was sharing this in connection to how we have been actually talking about prayer all these days, although unofficially. I'd like to share a few words to begin with about also what prayer is not. Because sometimes we learn more first by deconstructing false myths about something. I think Eric Fromm, in his Art of Loving, he starts the book by describing what love is not. If you survive that chapter, then you can move forward to the other ones. When he starts to articulate all the layers of love. But first, he's deconstructing the false ideas about that. Because if we don't do that first, we may just... Eric Fromm, The Art of Loving. That's the name of the book. Yeah. Because if we don't do that first, we are just probably carrying on and projecting our false ideas into the real thing. Yeah. Via negativa, they call it in Christianity. Like speaking about something by saying what that thing is not. And probably addressing our false assumptions about what that thing is. So then after we recover from the shock of realizing all my ideas about that were wrong, we will be in a place of reception. Okay, what that is actually. So it's important that we have the humility of being open at least to acknowledge probably I'm wrong about a lot of things. But I want to learn about that. I want to grow. I want to refine my conception of things. And again, this is so many layers of this. It's not that, oh no, okay, I now met the Vaishnavas, I read the Bhagavad Gita 3 times, I learned by heart half a verse. So now I know what things are. Probably not. Probably we need another layer of further refining, and so on and so on. So what prayer is not? Well, let's address one of the main misunderstandings about that, which will be that prayer is not, how to say, as I put in my book, some people think that prayer is a system for domesticating God. No? So I approach him so he does my bidding instead of me doing his bidding. No? You understand? What's not clear?
Tier tut man ja sonst domestizieren, weißt du, Haustier tut man ja. Für Haustier sagt man das ja eigentlich.
Just check the word.
Yeah, it's clear now? So that's not prayer. No? When we want God to do what I want, when we want him to serve my agenda. But most people think that's prayer. No? They will go to pray when they need something, basically. No? In their own limited framework. I need this, please provide, thank you. No? So it's request and some gratitude when the request is fulfilled. If the request is not fulfilled, who knows how we are. I'm angry. God didn't reply. I remember once talking even to a devotee who told me, I asked Krishna this so many times, he didn't reply. I closed my altar. She dismantled the whole altar. I'm angry with you now. Like, okay, well.
This is even higher than indifference.
Okay, yeah. Viraras.
Smash the door of the altar.
Viraras.
He must like it. Viraras.
Some wrestling there. Yeah. Or sometimes we may also, another misunderstanding about prayer is that we will pray with a very, how to say, very superficial, shallow confidence that I'm doing with God what God wants by doing my daily prayers. No? Like by chanting my number of rounds, I'm pleasing Krishna. Just by doing that, just by doing the number, I'm praying. No? I'm pleasing him. And that's not prayer either. No? Because in our tradition, I've seen some practitioners sometimes are more concerned with counting than with chanting, to make a play of words. The main concern is reaching a certain number, not a certain quality of heart. Like if Krishna will ask us at the end of our lives a number, no? Give me your numbers of this lifetime, please. Okay, you go. No? He's Baba Grahi Janardana. He's not number Grahi Janardana. He's not someone who only takes the number. He's taking the essence of our heart, which in one sense is more challenging. In one sense it's easier to say, I give you a number every day, and you have to take me to Golok. I've seen devotees who have this conviction that if I chant 16 rounds per day, every day without fail, at the end of my life, I'm going to Golok Vrindavan. And it sounds like, wow, you have such a strong faith. But generally, it's not like that. No. It's very superficial. Sorry?
It's a deal.
A deal. Yeah, signing the contract. But probably we didn't see the small letters in the contract. Because, yeah, it's okay. If you chant 60 rounds every day without fail, you go to Golok. Okay, I agree. provided that, what do you mean by chanting? If you tell me you are chanting Sudhanam, pure name, from all your heart, okay, yeah, you go there. But just the number, 16?
But then you can't stop at 16. Then you change.
That's the point, no? If you really are chanting from the correct place, you even lose the counting. Like sometimes we hear, as we were talking the other day, Haridas Thakur will chant 192. No? He was not just stopping at 16. But sometimes when we hear about other personalities like associates of Mahaprabhu, this one devotee said once, Rupa Goswami or others, sometimes we don't know how many rounds they chant per day exactly. And sometimes the devotees say, well, that's because probably sometimes Rupa Goswami also, he started chanting and at half round, he passed out. He fainted in ecstasy. That was his chanting during that day. Half a round. And he was in ecstasy, relishing the unlimited nectar in these 2 syllables, as we were saying the other day. The rest of the day, he was crying to Krishna, give me more ears, give me more tongues, as we recited the verse. Just to give an example, I'm not saying that he'll only chant the half a round every day, but I'm giving an example that what's Krishna taking more into consideration. No?
My Gurudev said maybe not even one name.
Half a syllable. Because Krishna, Krishneti Dwan Varnan Dwai, Rupa Goswami will pray. In these 2 syllables, there is so much. So probably that's the indirect implication. Just I get to 1 syllable and there I go, lost and found. So anyhow, we are talking about what prayer is not. So again, prayer is not trying to domesticate God and making him do what I want. Prayer is not having this superficial confidence. I'm finishing my daily number and I'm doing what I have to do. I'm correct. Krishna is pleased. I'm going to Golok, etc. Prayer is not about problem solving. No, that's something important. No, it's not that, okay, I will chant and I will address Krishna for him to solve my problems. Or if you like to think in that term, then the problem, I am the problem. So I'll address Krishna and solve me. Not so much solve what's happening around me so I can enjoy life nicely, but solve me. I am the problem. Because I am the problem, I see so many problems outside of me. I'm projecting my own problematic views into the environment. But as we were saying yesterday, there are no problems, technically speaking, outside of me. There are no enemies. There's nothing that we need to try to fix. As Gandhi will say, be the change you want to see in the world. You want peace in the world? That's great. The best thing you can do for world peace is be at peace with yourself. And you're like, oops, that's not so easy. It's easier to go on the streets and say peace for the world, and sometimes even burn everything in the name of peace. But to be at peace with yourself, that's a way more substantial contribution. So again, prayer is not about problem solving in this sense that Krishna solve all the things that are happening due to my own misbehavior. I'm creating all these situations, solve them. But the root of that solving is solve me. No? As much as you solve me, everything else will be solved in my life. And probably I will be able to help others to solve their own life as well. So these are a few ideas on what prayer is not, trying to demystify these false notions. So what prayer is? No? A few words on the positive side. And I like to read something, if it's possible, from here, from my book, from the chapter of contemplative prayer. So, who will translate? Krishna Chandra? Okay. So, sorry? Oh, yeah, sorry. 295. She's such a good student. So, prayer is not limited
Gebet ist nicht limitiert
to certain specific actions,
zu bestimmten Tätigkeiten.
nor does it constitute a mere recital of prayers.
A recital? Ah ja,
Ja.
man kann auch nicht reduzieren auf eine Rezitation, sondern abspulen.
It mostly has to do with whatever we may happen to be doing in a prayerful mood.
Es hängt davon ab, was immer wir gerade tun in der meditativen Gebetshaltung.
Prayer is ultimately a mood,
Das ist eine Stimmung,
a stance,
eine Haltung,
a realm,
ein Reich.
and not a one-act performance
Nicht eine einmalige Ausführung von etwas.
or an occasional weekend ritual.
Oder ein gelegentliches Wochenendritual oder Morgenritual.
Real prayer
Gebet
is a way of life,
ist ein Lebensstil,
to be thoroughly assimilated
gänzlich durchdrungen
through dedication and practice.
durch Praxis und Widmung.
It is something with the potential
Es hat das Potenzial,
of becoming not only a genuine source of shelter,
nicht nur eine Quelle von Zuflucht zu werden
and divine revelation,
und göttliche Offenbarung.
but also a part of our very identity.
Es ist ein Punkt meiner wahren Identität.
In other words,
In anderen Worten,
prayer is not so much something we do,
Gebet ist aber nicht nur etwas, was wir machen,
but something we are.
sondern etwas, was wir sind. Wir werden zum Gebet und sprechen nicht Gebet.
As someone, well, I mean, this you may not be able to make a play of words in German because a play of words in English, but let's see, you never know.
Das Spiel in Englisch.
As someone who writes becomes a writer,
So, wenn jemand write, ist ein Writer, also ein Schreiber, ist ein,
and,
jemand, der schreibt, ist ein Schreiberling.
and someone who plays becomes a player,
Und ein Spieler, jemand, der spielt, ist ein Spieler.
someone who prays becomes a prayer.
Und wenn jemand betet, dann wird eben Gebet.
Sorry, in German, maybe it's not the play of words. But
Not so much.
so the idea is, if you pray, you become prayer yourself.
Das ist Gebet selber.
So as Krishna Chandra Prabhu was saying in the beginning, prayer is not so much something we do, but who we are. This is, it's about like how to say, yeah, but let's continue on developing the idea of what prayer is and what prayer is not. I will go back and forth to these dynamics, what that is not. So as we were talking yesterday about how addicted we may be to our thoughts. So prayer is a great place to work on that. Because if not, we are bringing all our thoughts to prayer and just projecting them into God and filtering all the prayer experience through our addiction, basically. So prayer is not so much about changing God's mind, but prayer is about changing our own mind about God. I will repeat it again, just in case. So prayer is not about changing God's mind, but trying to change our own mind about Him. So to be open to change our thoughts about who we think Krishna is. Because we have our own idea about Krishna. And I'm not saying you're having the wrong idea. But we may have a wrong idea.
But it would be silly to even try something that is impossible and it's a total waste of time.
We are so expert at that.
There's people who really think they can change God's mind.
They try as hard as they can.
Then prayer becomes like a manipulative, magical thing.
So the point here is trying to remain open to change our mind about Krishna. Now, we know who Krishna is on some level, but we should be able to allow Krishna to show to us that he's way more than that. You follow my point? One sense, we know Krishna, we understand Krishna on some level, but on some level he can be understood endlessly. He can be known endlessly, without end. Endlessly. No? So we can know and experience. Yeah. I'm not saying even on theoretical level, because you can learn a lot, include a lot of information, but information is not the same as transformation. But even you can have lots of transformation, and still Krishna is way beyond that. There's always something more to experience. So we have to be careful that in prayer we are not projecting, again, a limited and therefore a limiting idea of who he is, of who we are relating to. And there is a lot of that sometimes. There is a lot, for example, of people who have unresolved parent issues from childhood, and they project their whatever they experience with the parent figure to God. Some time ago, I read a book interesting. It was a research that they did, and they say that it was like, I don't know the number, but kind of 99% of people who do not believe in God, they somehow had some parent issues as childhood. There was a very strong correlation between something that I received from my parents, which was not very nice, and then when someone talks about God, unconsciously probably I project that onto that figure and say, I cannot believe in that. No? They think that God is like the same repeated pattern. Yeah. Even unconsciously, again, not consciously. So it's important that we, again, in prayer, we show up to Krishna. We are open for him to reveal to us, himself to us, as he wishes, not as we think he should appear or give me this mercy or reply to this prayer. In that sense, I think we were talking some days ago with Krishna Chandra about this practice that they have in mystical Christianity called centering prayer. And centering prayer basically means that they sit in silence, consenting to God's presence in us. Like I sit and I just like, I consent to God's presence in my life in this moment without even thinking about him. Because thinking is already some filter that we are putting. I present to Krishna and I try to be as present as I can in the present moment without projecting my own ideas about who he is, how he should appear, and just allow him to appear as he considers. It sounds very simple, but if you try, you will see it's not simple at all. Immediately you start to think about many things, or even about Krishna, how he is, how he should be, and in a limited way, as you know him, as you have experienced till now. And that's not giving him place to be something else in our lives. So that's a very interesting practice that mystic Christianity have, and all these other traditions, so to say, the essence is very much in line with what we are talking here. Because as we were talking the other day, also for some of us, sometimes God is more a theological concept than a real person. Many times we relate to an idea of God, an idea of Krishna, an idea of Mahaprabhu, but he's an actual person that we should relate to. The prayer is for meeting the person behind the concept. We have the concept Krishna, but in prayer we have to meet the person Krishna. The concept has to be put aside in one sense, or the concept has to take us to the experience of the person. It's not enough that God is an idea for us. It's like if I tell you, oh, for me Krishna Chandra is an idea. Doesn't sound too real, too interesting.
Romantic.
Yeah. It's an idea. The concept Krishna Chandra. Let's talk about the Krishna Chandra concept. And it's like, now Maharaj, come on, he's a person also. You can relate to him, you can experience life. So that's way more exciting than just reducing him to some platonic concept in the ether or something. So be careful of not doing the same thing with Krishna. That's the point. Because we can say, no, he's a person. Yeah, as Krishna Chandra said, we can render lip service to so many things. From the mouth out, we can say a lot. And I have to be careful because as you are getting to know me, I say a lot. I have a big mouth. I talk. But then after concluding my talk, Krishna will say, okay, you say all those nice things for an hour and a half. Let's see what's going on from your mouth in. And sometimes I pass the test, sometimes I don't. But that's how we learn, how we grow. So the point is we can render lip service to something, but we have also to render internal service. Now it's what happens from the lip inside, not so much from the lip outside. So it's important that we, again, in prayer, address the object of our prayer as a real person, with all the, if you want to put it like that, all the risk that a personal relationship entails. Because sometimes keeping Krishna as a concept is kind of, he remains some form of imaginary figure without the risk of a real relationship. Because any real relationship is about commitment, especially a relationship with someone like Krishna. It's the greatest commitment. So unconsciously, sometimes it's easier. Let's keep Krishna as an imaginary concept. It's not so risky. But approaching the real person 100%, that's another level. But that's what prayer is about. We have to be very courageous to show up in prayer. Because if not, again, we will pray, we will chant, but Krishna is not, we are not addressing the real person, the real Krishna. As I say the other day, in this quote from Teresa de Avila, she was a Christian mystic, very much into prayer. No, they were these wild people who were like 20 hours a day in a room for the whole life with just one little window and absorbed in developing that relationship. And she basically said most of us have trouble with prayer because we pray as if God is absent.
We pray as God is absent.
We don't pray as if He will be present. We pray as if God is absent. We pray as if He's not a real person. Again, we are relating to an idea, to a concept, or to our own mind. We're just sometimes having monologue with our minds, not even dialogue. As if He does not exist, as we were talking the other day. Officially, we are theists, but sometimes in practice, we act as if God does not exist. So in those moments, we are officially atheists in practicality. So that's what we say the other day, no? Prayer is a training in dying. And one aspect of that training in dying is training in dying of the ideas that I may have about God. And let those ideas die so I reach a deeper experience of who He is as a person. And eventually let that die and then get close, and then get close, and then get close. That's progress. You accept something higher, you let go of something lower. You accept something higher, you let go of something lower. That's how Srila Siddha Maharaj describes progress. Accepting a higher level of reality, letting go the lower. Ad infinitum, without end, basically. And that's not easy again, but Don't get discouraged. That's not impossible either, as we were talking these days. And that's part of the death experience in prayer, because in one sense, as we talk these days, we may realize, and I'm the first one to raise my hand, that we fail in that so many times. And that can be humiliating, basically. We don't need some other people to humiliate us. You just go to prayer and you will very quickly be humiliated in the sense of witnessing, oh, how much I'm failing, how much I'm not treating Krishna as a real person many times. How much many times I want to manipulate him. Without bad intention, but those mechanisms are so ingrained from time immemorial, if you will.
Give a concrete example, maybe from your personal prayer life, of letting go something lower or something higher. Would you like to share? Could you share some things I can?
In connection to a conception of God, or in connection to anything?
Just what you said 3 phrases ago. It's important to let go of something lower or something higher.
Like let go of a lower. My point was letting go of a lower understanding of something to arrive to a higher understanding of the same thing.
Yeah. Could you share
an example?
From your
Okay.
prayer life?
Let's go to the unauthorized biography of Swami Padmanabha now from my prayer. Well, as you may know, recently, maybe, it's from my life. From my life, I'm trying that my life becomes a prayer life, so I don't need to just limit that to one day I was sitting in prayer, but just something happened in my life, and that's in connection to prayer. And you may know this, of course, no? That last year, for example, I was invited to take some distance from the Sangha I belonged before. So I was part of a certain particular community with certain values and certain ideals on some level. But at one point I was made to choose between remaining there, but having to compromise my identity and remaining there because of fear and because of compliance and because of just remaining for the status quo, so to say, and keeping my position and my places to visit and my admirers, so to say, and my security in so many ways, physical, financial, blah, 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 blah. That was one choice, one level. And the other choice was, no, I never joined for this. I never joined Krishna consciousness for this. I joined here for looking for the truth, for looking for God. And I'm willing to pay the price of continuing to that, even if that implies losing everything else. So by Krishna's mercy, I was able to choose, in my opinion, the correct option, which was I lose everything else, but I don't lose my integrity. So I can go at night and be at peace with my pillow, so to say. My consciousness allows me to go to sleep. Now, I have not betrayed myself. So for me, that was an upgrade. Was to arrive into a new place, because it was a totally unknown, unexpected place, totally out of my comfort zone, totally what we call liminal space, which is a space where you are transitioning from a known situation to another new situation, but you are no longer in the previous situation, and you are not in the new situation either. You are just on the threshold, as they say in English, not like in the space in between. And I will say after a year, I'm still somehow on some level in the space in between. Transitions can take time. And they are supremely uncomfortable to be in a transition when again, there's not so much certainty. And you realize, my gosh, how addicted I am to certainty. So you need to be put in a situation where there is almost no certainty about many things. But also in that situation, Krishna is showing his shelter, his mercy, his inspiration like never before. So that's the main certainty that still is there, stronger than ever. So that's an example of, for me, in personal level, like And I'm grateful for the lower conception I left. I'm not condemning that. That's my point. When we are making this progress, reaching a higher thing, is not that the lower is like, that was so low, that was so bad, I hate it. No, we are grateful to all the previous stages, so to say. We learn from that. They allowed us to pass to the next one and so on. But yeah, it's important to acknowledge the new place we are in and what took us there as well. Yeah. So I was talking that again, in those experiences, sometimes that there may be some humiliation, but humiliation not in a bad sense. Of course, humiliating others is not healthy, but sometimes we go ourselves through situations where we feel humiliated with ourselves. And interestingly, the word humility is connected with humiliation. A healthy humiliation, again. No?
And the Latin word
Humus.
humus,
Mm-hmm.
going to the earth.
Yeah. The Latin for humility is humus, which means soil, earth. Go down, ground yourself. So I remember once I read this, I think from Thomas Keating. He said that the path of conversion will be experienced as nothing but a series of necessary humiliations to the false self. Again, to the false self. Humbling it down, putting it to the earth. No? Necessary humiliation, not unnecessary. No? And again, it's not someone else is humiliating us, but we are going through that in our own prayer experience by growing, by letting go, and so on. So, yeah, in case you haven't realized it yet, prayer is not comfort zone. Of course, it gives another type of comfort, a deeper comfort, but not the comfort zone as we know it. To make a play of words in English, prayer is not comfort zone, but it's confront zone. When you confront means you put something in front of you, something that probably was under the under the carpet for lifetimes, and you decide, okay, it's time to look at each other face to face, eye to eye, to confront. Confront doesn't mean a bad word. In fact, the word confrontation, it has to do with intimacy. No? If I confront someone in a relationship, it doesn't mean I'm attacking the person, I'm being violent. Confrontation means we are putting something in front of us, something that we need to see, instead of hiding it somewhere. So in that sense, prayer is the ultimate confrontation, where we try to present ourselves as naked as we can, as honest, as vulnerable. And that will allow intimacy in prayer, in connection to God. Also, another aspect of prayer that I like to share, and I know that you here are very fond of that, is silence. A few words on silence, although it might sound contradictory. A few words on silence. Sometimes the best thing we can say about silence is to be in silence, but let me share a few words on silence. Let me read something from my book about silence. Page 310. Short section. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this relationship of that prayer represents is all about intimacy, depth, beauty. However, to develop a relationship with the divine through prayer presupposes a willingness to listen to him. And listening is an act of silence.
Und Zuhören ist ein Akt von Stille.
Therefore, silence doesn't mean don't speak,
Und Stille heißt nicht sprechen,
but rather means hear attentively.
aber enorm gut zuhören.
In Bhagavad Gita
Gita
10:38,
10:38
Sri Krishna says
sagt Krishna,
that among all secret
von
things,
allen geheimen Dingen, von den Geheimnissen bin ich das
He's-
Schweigen.
he is silence, maunam. Srila Prabhupada comments that
Prabhupada kommentiert das
among the confidential
von
activities
den vertraulichen Dingen,
of hearing, thinking, and meditating,
Denken und Meditieren,
silence is most important,
ist Stille enorm wesentlich.
because by silence one can make progress very quickly.
Weil die Stille ganz schnell Fortschritt machen. Ich bereite sozusagen den Acker vor für Fortschritt.
In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam
Srimad Bhagavatam
7:15-77
7:15-77
declares that the sweet absolute
ist das liebevolle Absolute,
is he who is worshipped by silence.
ist derjenige, der durch Stille verehrt wird.
So a few words from referring to Bhagavatam and the Gita about
And in Gita, when
silence.
Arjuna puts all his argument, oh, I don't want to fight, I don't want blah, 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 blah.
Krishna
And
is
then at one point it said, and Arjuna became silent.
Mhm.
Because lamentation has the tendency that it cannot be extrapolated all the time. So, it gets tired. So then it became silent. And the next word in Gita is Shri Bhagavano Vacha.
Mhm.
So it needs this element that God starts speaking.
Mhm.
But this silence is a little bit other.
What?
This silence would be a little bit. It doesn't. He was silent, but it doesn't mean exactly that he's ready to listen. You just say it. He just put himself out and spoke everything why he didn't want them to fight. But it doesn't mean that he was ready to listen. But he wasn't in
Krishna was just waiting for the moment where his arms were empty. He had no more bullets to fight anymore. So,
Yeah, I think that's an important point, that silence is how Krishna speaks. Not so much that Krishna speaks in silence. It's not that has nothing to say, but he speaks through silence. Now we need to enter into silence, to stop the noise, so we can listen. So silence is, of course, we are not talking, but it's not so much about not doing something, but doing something so we can do something else, so we can attune more subtly to what's already sounding, but sometimes there is too much noise in our system. So it's, I like how Krishna says in the Gita, he's from all secrets and silence. The connection between this, not only silence but secret, like implying something very secret is revealed in silence. And something very confident. It's not a public consumption, like we will be this. It will be something like, it will be very. You have to have ears to hear, eyes to see, basically. And it's interesting because Krishna also in the Gita says, Rajaguhyam, of all secrets, the king of all secrets is bhakti. And then he said, from all secrets, I'm silence. So you can start to connect all the things together, silence, secrets, bhakti, and how very subtle, deep truths of bhakti are coming to us in silence. And of course, silence is not only shut your mouth, again, because you cannot talk, but internally you can be like, and that's not silence, again. and you can be talking from a proper place, and that's silence also. Sometimes that's also compared maunam to harikatha. If it's spoken from the right place, again, real harikatha is not just lip level. But many times we need to to literally stop talking. Because, I mean, not everyone has the capacity to always be talking Harikatha from the deeper place. No? I remember there was one situation with some disciples of Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, no? In those beginning days, no? Lots of fanaticism and everyone has to be done like this. And they were in India and they heard about the yogi, I think, who was doing Mauna Brat for, in India you have them, no? Mauna Brat for the last 55 years or something. Vow of silence. Yeah, vow of silence, sorry. So he was not talking for decades. And sometimes he will write on a blackboard a little thing if he needed or something. So these devotees went to challenge him. No? Let's conquer him, let's convert him, let's defeat him, this impersonal yogi who is not talking and all that stuff. No? So they came to him like with the books and all, like so they told him like, to be in silence is not the highest thing. The highest thing is to always be talking about Krishna. Basically, that was the basic argument. And the yogi took the, how is it, chalk? Chalk. And he wrote, and do you do that? That was what he wrote. And the devotees were like, just common sense. Okay, even if that's the highest thing, are you doing that? Because if you are not doing that, you cannot come to others and tell them what they should be doing. If you are not doing that, you have to walk your talk, as they say in English first. So, so yeah, it's important. Silence is very important. Krishna reveals so many things in between the lines when we are able to listen attentively. And for us, it's interesting because in our tradition, the first anga of bhakti is Shravanam. But sometimes we understand Shravanam only like sitting in the class and hearing Harikatha, which of course that's Shravanam. Hearing about the lila, the form, the quality, that's Shravanam. But why do not extend the practice of Shravanam to listening in silence? No? The listening that goes on during silence. That's another form of Shravanam also. Hearing, listening. Maybe it's not listening about Krishna, but it will be listening to Krishna. No? In prayer. No? Sometimes we may be in prayer. Maybe there may be words. There may be no words sometimes. There's this famous quote from John Bunyan. Maybe you heard that one. He said, in prayer, it's better to have a heart without words than words without heart. Mm-hmm. So sometimes in prayer, you won't have words, but the heart is in the proper place. And Krishna is talking, and you are listening. That's Shravan, direct Shravan to Krishna's will, revealing in your heart. Mm-hmm. But that said, sometimes listening is not so easy. Although it sounds simple, but many times we are not willing to listen. Even between each other in our relationship, to really listen means to be empathic with what the other person is saying, to be present to the other person, and to be willing to be transformed by what we are listening. It's not that, okay, I listen to you, but I'm completely blocked. And just like we talked the other day, no? Bada, Jalpa, Vitanda. So Jalpa is, okay, you talk, I listen, but I'm completely unwilling to be changed by what you have to tell me. So how much listening is that? So we can, okay, I will listen, Krishna, I will listen to you, but we are not, because we may be afraid of being transformed. That's paradoxical. There's not love is the thing that most transforms us, but sometimes transformation is the thing that we fear the most. So in one sense, love is the thing that we most need and want, and so in one sense we could say love is the thing we most fear, because love implies the greatest transformation, and sometimes we are terrified about change. And love begins by hearing, by listening, Shravan. One more quote This is not from me, but I quote in my book about the fear of listening. It's very interesting. This is from this comes from Carl Rogers.
Carl Rogers.
He is a psychologist. Yeah, page 311. He says, the great majority of us
Die große Mehrheit von uns
cannot listen.
kann gar nicht zuhören.
We find ourselves compelled to evaluate
Wir sind aufgefordert, mal
because listening is too dangerous.
Es ist gefährlich, wirklich zuzuhören.
The first requirement of listening is
Die erste
courage,
Vorbedingung ist enormer Mut,
and we do not always have it.
aber den haben wir oft nicht.
If you really understand a person in this way,
Wenn du wirklich eine Person verstehen möchtest,
through attentive hearing,
genau aufmerksames Zuhören,
if you are willing to enter his private world
wenn du bereit bist, in seine private
and,
Welt
and
einzutauchen
see the way life appears to him,
und sehen, wie die Welt und das Leben ihm erscheint,
you run the risk of being changed yourself.
in einen radikalen eigenen Wandel hineinzufallen.
And this risk of being changed
Und dieses Risiko, verwandelt zu
is
werden,
one of the most frightening prospects most of us can face.
ist eines der gefürchtetsten Dinge, die wir je berühren können.
Of course, I'm not saying this to make you afraid. I'm just saying that's something that happens. That's something that happens, but that's something that as spiritual practitioners in prayer we have to confront. That's the glory of our journey. Even if we will fail miserably so many times still, still if we are honest to acknowledge this and work on that, that's in itself glorious. And we have so much support and so much love coming from Krishna in the midst of our fears and messiness, as we already also talked these days. So I'd like to conclude with a little section in this connection also about Krishna's unconditional love toward each of us. So we balance the messiness and the fear and the problems we may be going, balance that with God's unconditional love at every moment. So that fills us with hope and relief and strength to continue our prayer journey. Because as we say yesterday, not every day of prayer will be glorious. I mean, every day is glorious, but we may not feel it as glorious someday. But for Krishna, it's glorious. It's like, wow, you're trying to pray again. Although for you it was a disaster, Krishna's like, oh, so beautiful. Continue doing it. So of course, again, prayer has to do with, I will say, first of all, recognizing Krishna's position. Who is him? Then, and which is him is, what's his love? What's his intentions toward me? First, establishing that clearly. Who is the person I'm addressing in prayer? And having the proper idea again about that. Establishing that properly in the throne, so to say. Then a recognition of who I am. What's my position? Because it's a dialogue here. It's a two-way street. It's not only about me praying. It's not only about only Krishna talking. We are trying to have some communication, trying to develop the relationship. So who he is, what's his love, which are his intentions toward me, who I am in connection to him, what's all that I can be in connection to him. So after establishing who he is, who I am, then a recognition of the bond that we share. What do we have in common, so to say, between the two of us? What do we have? So we have so to say, the beloved, the lover, and love. If you want to put it in those words, no? No? Him, me, us, no? Or her, me, us, or they, me, us. As you feel more inspiring. And again, once we establish this properly, we are invited to be as naked as we can, as we mentioned, to experience darshan. And as we say the other day, darshan doesn't only mean to see Krishna, but allow ourselves to be seen, understanding that I'm being seen through an eye of unconditional love. I'm not being seen by a judgmental eye, by someone who is like chastising and judging and condemning and all the things that sometimes we do to ourselves. Krishna is not doing that. But we are being loved unconditionally by Krishna. Unconditionally means no matter your condition. Sorry that I repeat the same thing over and over again, because sometimes it's not entering, so it's at least in my own case. So I need to, probably you already got it lifetimes ago, but I need to pound the post a few more times so it's fixed. This type of logic in Sanskrit called stuna nikanana nyaya, which means pounding the post. If you want the post to be fixed, you cannot just do one time, it's fixed. You have to do 1, 2, 3, no? Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Aiva Kevala, Kalo Nastiev, 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 Tiranjata. No? It's not that Vyasadeva has some problem with stuttering, no? Repeating the same thing again. No? Sadhu Sangha, Sarvasas. There's some emphasis that for some reason, why they are saying that so many times the same thing? Probably that's something important. No? So that's the case here. We need to understand that Krishna is having unconditional love for everyone. He's saying in the Gita, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. I'm the best well-wishing friend of all living entities. Try to imagine. In one line, he's putting that. I'm the best Suhrit. Suhrit is not only friend, but it's a very heart-like friend, a well-wisher, someone who wants the best possible for you. So he's saying, that goes for every single living entity. I'm the best friend and well-wisher. And there are many other. Let me share one word from Jiva Goswami in this connection. Page 300. So Jiva Goswami is saying, by coming to the house of a low person devoid of bhakti,
Haus kommt, ein bisschen von einem Verstoßenen ohne Bhakti.
The Lord shows equal vision to all beings.
Der Herr, this means miteinander when he's coming there, or?
No, here is an explanation of the Bhagavata verse when Krishna visits Sudam.
Oh, Krishna kommt zu Sudama, oder? Ins Haus von einem armen Bhakta.
So he does not have prejudiced vision.
Hat nie eine Vorurteilsperspektive.
Thinking this person deserves mercy and that person does not. He does not have that vision
Hat nie diese Sicht.
because he has unconditional mercy.
Bedingungslose Lieblichkeit.
Moreover,
Aber
he has affection for the universe.
Hat Zuneigung zum ganzen Universum.
So we cannot limit that to people only.
Ist nicht nur ein paar
Whatever is inside the planet.
Alle, die da in diesem Universum drin hocken.
Though he shows mercy to those who worship him, Jiva Goswami continues,
Spezielle Gnade zeigt für diejenigen, die ihn verehren,
he's equal to all beings,
ist gleich zu allen Wesen,
high or low,
hoch oder niedrig.
since he is the Lord of the
Denn
universe
ist der Herr aller Universen
and affectionate to the fallen.
und liebevoll für diejenigen, die leiden und gefallen sind.
There are so many other sections like that.
So viele
Here I
Stellen
quote
und
like 2
Schätze.
pages of that. I don't want to torture you now with quotes here. I'll share a few. But not just like little lines of how Krishna is addressing connection to unconditional love.
Wie Krishna etwas sagt zu bedingungsloser Liebe.
Again, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, already explained.
Im 5. Kapitel, der letzte Vers, sagt Krishna, ich bin der engste, tiefste Freund von jedem Lebewesen.
He who views nothing as separate from himself,
Jemand, der nichts sieht als getrennt von sich selbst, das ist Krishna.
the supreme friend and dearmost soul of everyone.
Der liebste Freund von allen.
He who has love for all beings as his very self.
Derjenige, der Liebe zu allen Wesen hat, wie selbst als sein eigenes Selbst.
He who descends for the benefit of all the souls in the world.
This is Anugrahaya Bhutanam Manushan.
This Bhagavatam 10:4-7. Okay. Yeah, there are many. There are many.
Steigt nur in diese Welt herab zum Nutzen von allen Wesen.
Anyhow, there are many. That's it. I just want to share that for us to be clear. Krishna has unconditional love for everyone. And I clarify that because sometimes we hear Krishna only loves his devotees or reciprocates with his devotees, and with everyone else, indifferent. And it's like, oops, that sounds a little hard to accommodate. But we have all these statements that I have shared now. He's not speaking here about my devotees only. He's speaking about everything, everyone and everything. So how to harmonize that? So an example could be given to illustrate this in a better way. Because as we say already, Krishna does not only have love, but he is love. He's made of love. I mean, you cannot separate Krishna and love as much as you can separate Radha and Krishna, if you will, but in one sense they are one. So he's made of that. So if he's made of that, he cannot not love, because he's made of that. If you are made of love, you cannot stop loving because you are made of that. But when the scriptures speak strongly about how Krishna reciprocates with the devotees, of course he loves them in a special way. Why? Because also the devotees are loving him in a special way. So he's bound to reciprocate in a special way. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't love anyone else. He loves everyone else, but since everyone else is not reciprocating, his love takes another form. No. The example we can give is that of the mother. The mother can have a baby, let's say, and the baby has, 2 months. So the baby is not reciprocating with the mother too much, basically. I mean, the baby is not aware that he has a mother yet. The baby is not aware of his own self yet, probably. What to speak of the mother, what to speak of reciprocating in kind, that will come in time. But that doesn't mean that the mother at that time doesn't love the child already. But her love for the child just takes a certain shape because the child is not reciprocating. Yeah. So the love is there, but when the child grows and becomes aware of himself, his mother, the love of his mother, he feels naturally compelled to reciprocate. So now that love that was in the mother originally takes another form to reciprocate to the love of the child. It becomes more intense, more deep. But it doesn't mean that there was no love to begin with. So similarly, that's an analogy. We can say the same thing. God has unconditional love to everyone, but when certain childlike souls grow and become aware of that unconditional love, they reciprocate. And then Krishna reciprocates to that reciprocation, so to say. And that love takes another form in particular. So I'm saying all this in the context of prayer, just concluding, because I think it's very healing and very humbling also to understand how Krishna is loving us unconditionally, despite our messiness. It gives hope, it gives relief, but it's also inspiring to reciprocate. Again, it's not like, oh, Krishna loves me unconditionally, so I can relax, I won't do anything. I can do anything because he loves me unconditionally. That's the same. No, on the contrary, at least if you are sincere and you understand that person is loving you, even in the moments when you deserve that the least, that will touch your heart in a way that I want to give something back to that person. And I will say that's the best self-esteem system that we can have. No? I'm being loved by God, even without deserving it. Wow. There is something in my intrinsic constitution that is lovable to God. That's what Saint John of the Cross said in Christianity. That's interesting. He will say, love what God sees in you. No? He's finding in you something that is lovable. So try you yourself to love that same thing also, which is not your own merit. It's not your own creation. So you cannot get proud about that. That's the thing. It's in a way that you become more and more humble. There is something in me that God loves. So I have to identify with that and love that as well. But it's not a selfish love. I'm incredible. I'm so special. Because that's in everyone, in everything. So that's important in prayer, not to acknowledge there is something lovable in us by God's grace. We should humbly identify with that, and then we should reciprocate accordingly. I will say that's a very healthy motivation for us to engage in bhakti. No? I'm not addressing Krishna out of fear. I'm not addressing Krishna out of even duty, but I'm trying to reciprocate with him because he's already loving me unconditionally. So whatever I do in bhakti is the natural result of me trying to reciprocate in kind to that unconditional love he gave. Like Thomas Merton will say, if you're praying, you are not doing the kickstart. You're not starting. God started the conversation. So when you sit to pray, you are just trying to continue, go give back something to what he sent to you that made you pray to him. So we should never think, okay, I will start to pray and let's see if Krishna has something to tell me. No? But I am beginning this whole conversation. No. He's beginning, and we are trying to
respond.
Yeah, to honor that, to give back something, but with that humility of he's already sending that, he's already loving unconditionally. One more thing, but you will be next in the questions. Yeah. So again, it's important to understand prayer means, among many things. Of course, we can say so many things about prayer. I'm not just saying whatever someone can say about prayer. I'm saying it here. I'm just touching one point of an infinite line. But one aspect of prayer will be to remain aware of how I'm being loved unconditionally. And how do I need that? How do I need that unconditionality in my present situation? Because if Krishna loves me conditionally, I lost the game. If he will be only loving me when I deserve it or something, that's not love. That's it. Love is unconditional. And when we understand, as we say these days also, of course, it's challenging because, okay, it's so relieving and so beautiful to know Krishna is loving me unconditionally, but he's also loving everyone else unconditionally. And I should treat everyone in that way. When I address everyone, I'm addressing someone who's being loved unconditionally by Krishna in this precise moment. So how I'm treating that unity that is being loved unconditionally. That's challenging. Again, it's beautiful that we are receiving that, and it's beautiful that everyone is receiving that, but it's challenging but it's made in such a way that we are invited to relate to each other from that place of unconditional love. Once this idea came to me about the third verse of Shikshastakam, and how we can understand that verse in terms of unconditional love. Like, be very humble, because when you realize I'm being loved unconditionally, that's very humbling. I mean, I'm such a mess till now, and still Krishna is loving me. That brings so much humility. You won't become proud. Become very tolerant. Like Tarora Pisa Krishna. Why? you are being loved unconditionally. In other words, Krishna is tolerating so much of you. He's not complaining. He's still in your heart. He didn't put a sign, I'm tired of all that. So enough. That's it. End of the game. So I'm being loved unconditionally. Naturally, that type of tolerance will be a natural byproduct. Amanina manadina. Respect everyone. Why? Because they are being loved unconditionally by Krishna. That's a very deep way of respecting everyone. Not so much like I have to respect that Swami that is coming to visit because he's Maharaj or something like that. It's like everyone is being loved unconditionally by Krishna. Wow. I bow down to that. And don't expect respect. What does it mean? That you don't need anyone to respect you in a superficial way, because Krishna is already loving you unconditionally. That's the most validating thing you can possibly receive. I don't need to have the whole world validating me and saying ki jai, respect me. Already Krishna loves you unconditionally. What more do you need than that? So that way you can read this such an important verse for us, Shikshastakam 3, through the lens of unconditional love. But again, one more thing, the price of unconditional love is costless. Sometimes we say costless mercy, but it's not priceless. Costless mercy is not priceless mercy. We have to pay some price. And what do I mean by this? We need to be very humble to accept that we are being loved unconditionally. Because if you think, I'm being loved and I'm not deserving this. You can never deserve unconditional love. That's for the false ego. That's like poison. That you are receiving something that you will never deserve. The ego always wants to deserve stuff. I have my merit, I did this, I obtained that, I deserve it. But with unconditional love, there's a completely different set of, it's another system, another language. It's unconditional. You haven't deserved it, and no matter what you do, you will never deserve it. Because unconditional love is too much to be deserved. That for the false ego is a bomb, atomic bomb. You need really to be very humble to accept, okay, I'm receiving this unconditional love that I need so much and that I will never deserve no matter what I do. That keeps you in a very humble place. But we have to embrace that humility, because if we cannot accept that, we will escape from that and we'll try to deserve things. And then we are back to the realm of cause and effect. No more unconditional love, so to say. So anyhow, some words in connection to prayer. I like to conclude on this note as unconditional love, and to balance what we mentioned about the possible daily humiliations we may be going through in prayer as well, and trying to put everything on the scale and feel very blessed that we have in this lifetime the opportunity to even glimpse at the window of what prayer means as a lifestyle, as a life, and also even as something that is contributing to the whole world. Because sometimes prayer is underestimated in that sense on the effect that it's creating in the whole planet, if you will. Because as we mentioned, if you want to do something to change the world, first change yourself. And one of the main ways you can change yourself is through prayer. Sometimes these prayer hermits probably are doing more to change the world than many other people who is an activist. I'm not condemning activism in society. There's place for everything, but someone from the hermit can be creating an equally powerful healing and transformation in the world. Once one devotee say, this planet remains in its orbit due to the prayers of saintly people. They say there will be the presence of those saintly people. if we wouldn't have the presence of those prayers, whether the prayer or the people who is praying who become prayer, probably earth goes down and Varahadev is requested again to bring it back. So that's also in part my appreciation to all of you forest dwellers here in the mountain, praying, trying to commit your life to deep introspection and silence and prayer and chanting, and knowing that the effect of that goes way beyond Zurich and this particular town and Switzerland and planet Earth, but it's a contribution in way deeper ways, reaching even Krishna in his personal life, we could say eventually. So anyhow, thank you so much, and we have a few minutes if there are questions. And Darvika raised her hand a few moments ago, so your turn. I pass you the mic symbolically.
Ich frage wieder auf Deutsch, ja. Wir haben ja gehört,
We have heard
wie wichtig das persönliche Gebet ist
how important is the personal prayer,
und auch welche Tücken es hat in seiner Bedingtheit, weil wir ja auch aus einer bedingten Position heraus beten.
also that it has some limitation because we are praying from a conditioned side.
Und dann haben wir in dem Zusammenhang gehört, wie wichtig es ist, eben in die Stille zu gehen, um gehorsam zu werden.
And then we heard also how important it is to go to silence, to become like extremely attentive.
Weil ich da auch so gehört habe, oder darüber sprechen wir auch immer, dass es dann wie so da kann so die Bedingtheit wie so ins Leere laufen und man kann eben wirklich wie leer werden und darin empfänglich werden.
How the whole conditions side doesn't have life juice anymore, it gets empty, and then something is opening to receive, to be blessed.
Und ich fänd es schön, noch mal was zu hören, auch wenn es vielleicht noch mal so ein großes Thema ist. Und er hat ja gesagt, er hat ja jetzt wie nur so einen Aspekt oder kleine Aspekte vom Gebet
And you
gestriffen.
said you just touched some little aspects of prayer, but I would like to.
Ich würde so gern noch mal von ihm hören, wie das persönliche Gebet im Verhältnis steht eben auch zu Harinam oder auch, was er am Ende nannte, die Gebete all der Heiligen, die es gibt und die wir ja auch singen und die wir versuchen zu vertiefen, und Harikatha eben als Teile vom Gebet. Also
So what is
die
the
Relation
relationship between
nochmal.
personal prayer and prayers by great saints and Harinam and Harikatha? What is the interrelationship between personal prayer, our own life of prayer, and the Harikatha and the Holy Name and the prayers of great saints?
And Darvika is trying to trick me
No.
to stay here 3 more weeks, so I can reply to her question. Because
To come back.
I mean, of course, we will say something, but my point is there's so
Yeah.
much to say, and,
Yeah.
and I like the question because, of course, it invites to. But first of all, Krishna Chandra, a few words on that.
No, I'm speaking all the
Camera
time.
is with you, sorry. It was not my choice. It's the cameraman there putting that. I don't know who is behind the camera.
For me personally, they're like different kinds of invitations, like sadhu sangha, or speaking of prayers of sadhus is an invitation, and harikatha is an invitation because I'm floating on something I'm not making at all, and sometimes
I feel like they want Radha and Krishna and the saints whose prayers I'm singing. They look at me, and this is also an aspect, you mentioned it also. Each and every prayer is not air just floating out. There is a presence around me who is hearing it. So, and they feel I'm carrying this little soul, Krishna Chandra, Harikatha, Sadhu Sangha, the prayers of the Acharyas, Harinam. But then sometimes I feel how they also want to see, so, and how are you doing? What is your reaction? Because even Radha and Krishna and even saintly personalities, they're not just saying, I'm speaking and I'm carrying you, but you are an insignificant jiva. They have like an interest. And say, so what is your reaction? Now I spoke something, I carried you and I did something to you. What is your reaction? What do you want to tell? Which is a very interesting aspect of communication. And for me, this is the personal prayer. So I'm getting so many invitations to be carried by a power which is much beyond me. But then sometimes they just want to be, so, and what is about you? And you know, it's like you give the example, the father sometimes is holding the child learning to drive bicycle from behind and then lets go, and it goes a little like this. So this is my personal prayer. But slowly they want to educate me for Parshadattva, to become like an eternal associate of them also. So, and it's like a learning phase, and only when I express something honestly where I am, this is like the personal prayer, then some more correction can come. Like with my Gurudev, he made always the festivals, and then he only spoke short, and then he said, and now you speak about this, and you speak about this, and you speak. And it was humiliating, you know, when the student has to play the violin before the perfect violin teacher or something. But it's an important thing that they can start fine-tuning myself. So this is my personal prayers, like the expression. I open myself again, so they start, oh, you stand there. Oh, you like, look, this is, and then some more fine-tuning is coming. So it's needed, otherwise the Harikatha cannot flow.
Yeah, Krishna Chandra gave the answer already.
Now you are.
But one of the reasons why I invite always Krishna Chandra to say, not always, I should invite him always, sorry, I'm failing sometimes. And I invited now and some other times is because I also like to see how many of the things that he says are the things that I will say if I'm asked the question. I'm not saying this is an excuse to say, so I won't say anything now. But in many ways, for me, it's a very also inspiring experience when I witness. Oh. And one of those things is what Krishna Chandra Prabhu mentioned in the beginning. Two things. One, of course, all these different things you asked about Gandharvika, like Harikatha, and our own prayers, and the prayers of the acharyas, and the chanting of the name. They are all like different invitations, different portals. Of course, all of them are connected in one sense. The invitation goes to the same place, if you will, if you want to put it. No, it's not like different invitations to completely different places. So I personally also feel that interrelatedness of all this. It's not that one thing goes here, Karikata goes there, praying goes that. And I think it's important for us as practitioners to gradually put all that together, no? Because sometimes we still may think, okay, this anga of bhakti and this, that, and that's that, and gradually to integrate and see, okay, all this is working pointing to a similar direction. And I appreciated what Krishna Chandra Prabhu mentioned regarding Radha and Krishna Gurgadhar asking, so how are you doing, Krishna Chandra, today? What's your report today? Tell us something. In the sense of they are interested in our individuality as well. Now, they don't want automatons like robots. No? Sometimes they want to tell me something. What do you want? What do you? And it's not only I want what you want. No, they will want to make it more radically personal. No, tell me your taste. Tell me what you want. Like in the lila, that's, I don't know. Each friend of Krishna will like a particular type of food. It's not that Krishna asks them, what do you like the most? Would you like the most, Krishna? No, that's not Vrindavan. No. They'll say, I like mangoes the most. I like bananas the most. And Krishna may say, that's not my taste. And they say, well, but that's my taste, they will say, Krishna. And they will say that from such a place that it's giving Krishna taste. So it's totally aligned with, or when Agasura opened the mouth, his mouth, as you know, and all the gopas were like, wow, let's go there. That sounds like a very exciting cave. No, let's explore it. And Krishna was like, no, don't go there. And they were like, let's go there. So Krishna wanted something different, but they went, and Krishna had to follow them. So Krishna goes where bhakti goes. Krishna's friends are the personification of bhakti, sort of Shakti. So it's not so much bhakti goes where Krishna goes. Krishna goes where bhakti goes. Even if Krishna was not planning going there, bhakti goes, Jadrichaya, moves out of its own will, and Krishna has to go, has no option. So I appreciated the point, and also the importance of offering our own prayers. I mean, of course, we have the prayers of our acharyas, and they're so exemplary and ideal and deep and drenched with so many layers of realization. But also, there's a place for us to offer our own prayers, to compose our own prayers. I'm not saying compose in the sense I will write my own song book or something, but just to flow in prayer personally, wherever we are in our particular situation. Because sometimes also we can end up doing copy paste of prayers and in maybe even an evasive device of where we are now, and trying to force to be where Bhaktivinoda Thakur is or something, instead of appreciating that, getting inspired with that, and going back to where I am, and from that place offer my personal prayer, so to say. So that's very important. And as Krishna Chandra said, also with the chanting of the name, sometimes technically speaking, some may say that's not bandhanam, that's not the prayer. Prayer is more to offer prayers in third person to Krishna. But I will say chanting is prayer. Chanting should be chanted in a prayerful mood, so to say. As we talked in the beginning, prayer at the end is a mood through which you chant the name, through which you cook, through which you have a shower, peel a potato, work in the garden, cut wood. All those things can be prayers, because again, the invitation, as Krishna Chandra put, all these are invitations, and the invitation is always open. The window is always open. It's up to us how much we want to go there. Yeah. Some thoughts in complement to his.
All right.
Yes.
Many times when we were in India, also as an ashram group, or when one is in traditional Gaudiya mats, if one asking
brahmacharis and sannyasis or persons there, what is your prayer life? Oh, they say we sing Mangalarati and then songs of Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And they say, yeah, but you're personal. And they
You're
are
too
like,
dangerous. Your questions are too.
then they say, they're like, they don't have this mostly. So what is your feeling? Why is this tendency in the modern Gaudiya world, or how it's in the training, practically absent or really not taught so explicitly? Because we checked even in the 64 Angas, Vandanam has two sides. It's really the Vandanam from the prayers of Acharyas, but it's also your own. It's two Angas from the 64. But what is your estimation or what is your feeling why this is so neglected?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And so you may imagine part of why I wrote that chapter in my last book. I mean, my whole book is somehow a critic to the Gaudiya Sampradaya, a loving critic, like a loving, like, okay, we belong to this tradition with this ideal, but this is not happening, or this is happening in this way. And of course, not in everyone, but in general, I'm talking to a general condition of the tradition. And I feel one of the things that are most missing is the emphasis on prayer life. That's why I thought, okay, I will write a whole chapter on prayer. As I wrote another chapter on vulnerability and individuation, or coexisting with mystery, and healing our relationship with material energy, and things that I feel they are a little dysfunctional in the general way as Gaudiya Vaishnavas conceive of the things. So in connection to prayer, yeah, I agree with what Krishna Chandra mentions. In general, of course, I know many devotees who have a very deep prayer life, but just as a general template, I feel it's a little bit more like formulaic, like chanting, like participating in the daily functions, so to say, as you mentioned, this artic before the class, these kirtans, which again, I'm not against any of that. But even all those things can be done mechanically, so one has to be very careful not to, because if you do the same thing every day forever, I mean, there's a risk to do that mechanically. Singing the same song every day, singing the same mantra it's never the same deeply, but you can be doing it from a very copy-paste way. Like, okay, now I have to say this, now I have to do that, move like that, and it's like, but at the end of my life, I will go to Golok. No, I finish my round. So
Automatically.
yeah, it's not automatic. No? If it's automatic, we are automatons, and that means like a robot. So of course, this may require deep socio-historical research and analysis, but in my personal estimation, because I feel when we study the life of great mystics in our tradition, they have a very deep inner life and prayer life. It's not that this is like we are importing this prayer idea from Christianity or some other tradition, and we are actually not about that. No, that's not the case. We have that, but I think somehow in time it got, yeah, in my estimation, again, in the general way, like that things get like established, so to say, in time, in history. Okay, institution, certain structure to the daily life, certain order, like Mangalarti, this chanting, this ceremony, and of course the emphasis on the Maha Mantra. But eventually in time, those things end up becoming like too devoid of their actual inner spirit. Because chanting the Maha Mantra and assisting in all these ceremonies can be done from a very prayerful place. But sometimes the tendency in general, I'm not blaming anyone, but the tendency with the passage of time, when things are established, is that they start to become like status quo, so to say. Okay, this institution, this is the art, this is the way to do the thing, this is the number to achieve. So everything becomes more formulaic, and generally we become like complacent with that. Okay, what do I have to do? You have to come on Molarcta this time, we sing this song, you have to chant this number of rounds. So we receive like the magical formula, so to say, but we lose sight of the inner spirit of how to embrace that. So I will say, yeah, like Krishna says in the Gita, with the passage of time, the thing gets distorted or diluted. He himself knows these things happen, no? So, and I personally feel we are at the point where it's important that, like for the whole Gaudiya community, we can have some form of, hopefully, on some level, global awakening to a rebirth of how we think of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and how we can approach this in a very renewed place, no? Like reflecting back, what's the actual essence of our tradition? How much we are missing that, how much we need to bring back elements like prayer, no? This is what comes to my mind, but your testimony, your opinion.
No.
Yes.
No, we can speak later on. Tomorrow.
Okay. Tomorrow we are leaving in the morning. Don't cheat us.
Yeah, but we go.
Okay, we will talk each other. We won't cheat each other. We will cheat all of you. Not among ourselves. Give us some space for ourselves. Also. He will return and we'll share what we talked on that walk. That's a commitment.
Okay.
Publicly, I'm saying that. So
They heard it.
yeah. So when he returns back, you will be all like Krishna Chandra.
We have to report.
So thank you so much to all of you. Almost 2 hours. So I don't want to take more of your time, but thank you so much. I will be staying till tomorrow morning, but since it's the last public sharing, I wanted also to express my my gratitude, my affection for all of you, my indebtedness. Every time I'm visiting here, it's becoming more and more home-like. It was already home from day one. From day one when I met Krishna Chandra in the airport, that was home already. So the closer we get to the mountain here, became more and more home, and the more we get acquainted with each other, it's becoming more natural, an extension of family. So for me, that's a special mercy that Krishna is giving, because I'm traveling quite a while, as you know, and it's not necessarily that every place I visit is. I mean, I try to go to places that are home for me. That's what takes me to those places. But there are some places which even are maybe more home than others. Don't want to make a hierarchy or anything, but let's be honest. So, so this is one of those. And of course, when I say this, I'm not referring to the physical mountain, which in itself is, of course, glorious in itself, but all of you who made this place. So I wanted also to officially, publicly present my gratitude, my affection, my indebtedness, and my humbled by your presence, by your service, by the way you are conducting yourself in community experience here and trying to together nourish this joint project, like a teamwork in a very inspiring, exemplary way for the rest of the Gaudiya community. I will wish, and we were talking these days with a few of us, like I will wish that more like this project will be in other places. So when someone asks me, do you know some other place like this? I could quickly say, yeah, you can go here, but unfortunately I have to think a little bit. So changed my mind now.
I hope you won't change.
A few things happen in between, as you know, regarding that place. So as long as those things doesn't happen here, I won't change my mind. I'm not changing my mind.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. I'm open. Krishna is here and taking notes, so who knows which mischief he will manifest. Let's see.
How can we take him out of his comfort zone again?
Yeah. So anyhow, thank you so much again for your presence, your friendship, your dedication, your sincerity, your honesty, and your attempt at a life of prayer that's so important, so nourishing for all of us, and looking forward to meet each other soon and keep in touch somehow or others. Sadhu.
But we will not greet you farewell now.
No, there's
We
no
will have
farewell.
an
I didn't say
meeting.
farewell. I'm just
Okay.
saying,
Yeah.
expressing gratitude, appreciation, which of course I can do every single day. I don't have to do it the last day I'm staying here. It's nice to express that every moment, but it came now in the inspiration. But yeah, there's no farewell. It's just like,
See you in summer 24.
yeah, a festival of union, separation, and transition. So
Yes.
Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai, Shri Harinam Prabhu ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Gadadhar ji ki jai, Shri Radha Govinda ji ki jai, Shriman Krishna Chandra Prabhu ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Pramananda Vivo, Vancha Kalpataru Vishta, Kripa Sindhu Vacha, Patitanam Pavane Vaishnavebhyo Namo.
Maharaj ki
Yay!
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Ananda Dham ki jai, Gaur Hari Bol.